All right, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle something that honestly can look pretty intimidating, but is absolutely key to how the internet actually works: Cisco iOS licensing. We're going to crack the code, so to speak, on how these network devices get all their cool superpowers. So, take a look at this. At first glance, it just looks like a jungle of letters and numbers, right? A secret code. Well, by the time we're done here, you're going to be able to read this whole file name like it's a simple sentence. You'll know exactly what it's telling you, because this isn't just a name, it's basically a blueprint for the device. Okay, so let's get right into it. First up, we're going to decode this thing piece by piece. Think of it like looking at the DNA of the router's operating system. But hey, before we dive deep into that file name, let's just get on the same page. It's actually pretty simple. You know how your PC runs on Windows or your Mac runs on macOS? Well, Cisco routers, the boxes that connect the internet, they run on something called iOS. That's the Internetwork Operating System. It's the brain behind the whole operation. Okay, so back to our code. Every single part of this name tells us something important. That C1841 at the beginning, that's the hardware platform, a Cisco 1841 router. Simple enough. The IP base part tells us what it can do right out of the box. You know, the basic IP features. Then you have MZ. Now this tells us how the software is stored. It's compressed to save space, and it's designed to run right from the router's main memory, its RAM. And finally, that last bit, 123-14.t7.bin, that's the version number. And trust me, that's super important for knowing exactly what features and fixes are packed inside. All of a sudden, that mess of characters turns into a detailed spec sheet. See? Not so scary once you break it down. Now, you have to understand, for a long time, things were messy. If you wanted different features, you needed a totally different software image. I mean, it was a logistical nightmare for network admins. But then, Cisco came up with a new philosophy, and it really changed the whole game. Yeah, instead of having to manage dozens and dozens of different software files for every possible feature combo, they switched to a single universal image. The idea was to have one piece of software to rule them all, at least for each type of device. And honestly, this car analogy here explains it perfectly. Think about it. The universal image is like buying a car that's already fully loaded from the factory. I mean, all the cool features, the sunroof, the premium sound system, heated seats, they're all physically there. You just need the right key, the right software key, to turn them on. So as you can see in the diagram, the basic driving functions, what they call IP base, that's always on. But if you want to unlock the advanced stuff, like security, or unified communications, or high-performance data routing, you need a specific license key. So here's the absolute key takeaway. A universal image has all the features already baked in. You're not installing new software to get new powers. You're just unlocking them. You're activating what's already there with a license. And this, as you can imagine, makes managing a network way simpler. All right, so if the software is this fully loaded car, what exactly can it do? Let's take a look at these different keys, or as Cisco calls them, technology packages, that unlock all the router's various superpowers. First up is the security package. As this diagram shows, it's a layer that sits right on top of the standard IP-based features. So when you activate this license, you're essentially turning a standard router into a really powerful security appliance. So what kind of superpowers are we talking about here? Well, with this key, you get things like intrusion prevention, which is like having a digital bodyguard for your network, actively stopping attacks. You get content filtering, which lets a company control what websites employees can visit. And you get SSL VPN, which creates a super secure encrypted tunnel for people working from home to connect back to the office. I mean, these aren't just bells and whistles, they're essential protections for any modern business. Okay, the next key we can use is the data package. This one is really for organizations that have more complex, high-performance networking needs. We're talking about connecting different big sites or managing massive flows of data. And the data license unlocks some seriously powerful tools for building massive networks. For instance, MPLS. Think of it like a super efficient GPS for your data, finding the absolute fastest, most direct path for traffic to travel. And then there's L2 VPN. This is like having an incredibly long, secure Ethernet cable that lets you connect two offices on opposite sides of the world, making them feel like they're in the same building. This is the heavy-duty stuff that powers huge corporations and internet service providers. And our third main key is the Unified Communications Package, or UC. This is the one that transforms a router from just a data pusher into a full-blown collaboration hub, something that can handle all your voice and video calls. Yeah, this license basically turns your router into an entire office phone system. For example, Communications Manager Express, or CME, lets you plug IP phones right into the network. No need for a separate, big, clunky phone server. And SRST is this really clever backup system. If your main connection to headquarters ever goes down, SRST keeps the phones in the local office working so people can still call each other and, make emergency calls. It's all about building a reliable, all-in-one communication system. Now, when you go to get one of these keys, they usually come in two main flavors. You've got your permanent license, which is exactly what it sounds like. You buy it once, and it's good for the entire life of that router. But there's also an evaluation license, which is a fantastic try-before-you-buy kind of deal. It lets you test out a full feature set for 60 days of actual use before you have to commit to buying it. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's all the theory, but what does this actually look like for the person who's managing the network day to day? Let's walk through exactly how an administrator would put one of these licenses into action. And it's really a super straightforward 3-step process. First, you check to see what's already running. Second, you activate the new package that you need. And third, you verify that the change actually worked. That's it. Check, activate, verify. So step 1 is check. An admin would type in the show version command, and they'd get this report back. Now, if you look down at that table at the bottom, under the Technology Package Current column, you can clearly see that UC and data are both marked as disable. The router is literally telling us, hey, these features are turned off right now. All right, on to step 2, activate. The admin enters this single command to turn on the data package. And that's it. Look how simple that is. License boot module C2900 technology package data K9. There's no complicated installation, no downloading big files, just a one-line command to turn on the features that are already sitting there on the device. And finally, step 3, verify. The admin runs that show version command one more time, and you can see the change, right? On the data line, look at the column on the far right, technology-package next reboot. It switched from disable to data K9. This is the router's way of confirming, yep, I got your command, the new license is ready to go and will be active the next time I restart. So there you have it. We've cracked the file name and we've seen how the licenses actually work. Now let's bring it all back together by looking at that one last piece of our initial mystery, that version number. Remember that letter in the version number, the T from our first example? Well, it's actually really important. It tells you which software train the router is on. You see there are two main trains. The M train stands for extended maintenance. These are your super stable, long-term releases that you can rely on for years. The T train, on the other hand, is the standard release. That's where you find all the latest and greatest features, but it's for shorter deployment cycles. Choosing the right train is a huge decision when it comes to network stability. And that really brings us to our final thought for today. This whole model, right? The idea that the hardware comes fully loaded and you just unlock features with software keys. It started in networking, but we're seeing it pop up everywhere now, in our cars, in our phones, and all sorts of electronics. So it leaves you with a pretty big question. If all software features can be pre-installed and just unlocked on demand, what does that really mean for the future of how we buy and even own technology?